There's exciting news from one of our Banner and Company guests. Mo Sabri will be playing the Skirmerhorn Symphony Center May 31st with a program called Tennessee Daisy. It's a blend of the country music he learned growing up in East Tennessee and the devotional music of South Asia that is also part of his DNA. I hope you enjoy this encore of our conversation with Mo Sabri from last April. Mo Sabri grew up in East Tennessee, just down the road from what many consider the birthplace of country music as we know it, the place where the Carter family recorded some of the genre's most iconic performances. Looking out the window of his parents' house, he could see cows. And as the old song goes, if that ain't country. Well, the thing is, for some people, there's one thing about Mo that trumps his upbringing. He's Muslim. Now, Mo has seen the Grand Ole Opry, even if he never met Johnny Cash. And he believes his faith is part of what makes him country. I'm inclined to agree, but you take a listen for yourself. I'm Demetria Kalodimos. It's Banner and Company. Mo Sabri. Am I saying that correctly with the accent?
Yes. Well, honestly, there's two different ways to pronounce it. There's
Really?
Sabri, like as you said it, and then there's Sabri as well. And it's interesting because the Desi, the South Asian folks will say Sabri, and then people from other parts of the world will say Sabri, and they're actually both correct. So,
Which do you prefer?
I usually say Mo Sabri. It's like Sabrina without the NA.
Uh-huh. In Pakistan, your last name is synonymous with music, correct?
Yes.
As familiar as, like, you'd say Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson here.
Yeah, thanks to the Sabri brothers, who really were one of the top Qawwali groups in South Asia. And it's been great because whenever I say my name is Mo Sabri, they're like, oh, wow. They already assume that I'm a musician, so that's kind of nice.
And Qawwali. Tell us, what's the sound? What's the instrumentation? What makes it so unique?
Well, traditionally, it started with, as far as I'm aware, it started with just a cappella and like hand clapping, and then tabla drums were added in, and that's like the South Asian two-handed drum, which really gives that kind of Bollywood sound. And then harmonium, which is kind of like this keyboard with an accordion sound, and really it really relies a lot on the voice, and there's like kind of a group chorus call and response. I like to describe it as the Pakistani Grateful Dead because because it's a lot of, you have these songs that are maybe a few minutes long, but there's all this live improvisation and it's often, instead of like guitar solos, you got like vocal solos, and I thought that was super cool. To be able to have that heritage of this music, and then also try to find the similarities. And I saw the similarities between the other type of music that I also inherit, which is Appalachian country music from East Tennessee. So, it's been as different as they seem. They're more similar than someone might think, and that's also, I think, a metaphor for who I am.
It's rare in some country recordings, or it used to be rare, to hear drums of any kind. And, obviously the drums are such an integral part of your traditional music. But
Yes.
you hear similarities in what? In the rhythm, in the lyric, in the chord structure, what?
One of the things that I love about Nashville, specifically in the music industry, is that we have a culture of songwriters and breaking songs down from whatever you hear in the production to just the chord structure and the melody and the lyrics. And so as I've been doing that for the songs I write, I've also been doing that for Qawwalis, which when you break that down, you see that, hey, these songs are often like 3 chords in the truth or 4 chords in the truth. And so these melodies, they're mostly in Western scale. I mean, there's some, vocalizations that are difficult to pinpoint, on a Western scale, but, in microtones. But for the most part, if you translate the words from Urdu into English, you might hear a country song, because a lot of these Qawwali songs are about devotion, about faith, about, love, about God. And I kind of broke down one of my dad's favorite Qawwalis called Allahu, and it ended up being the same chord structure as Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so there's all this similarity where, to me, I'm just like, if only people knew how similar we are, and then we kind of place barriers between people, and music is a universal language. So I'm like, I can show these similarities, which I embody as a Muslim, Tennessean of South Asian descent. And so I made this concert called the Tennessee Qawwali Tour, and I had this first show in Indianapolis. But I was kind of going between country and Qawwali, but I was doing it in the form of a Nashville songwriter round. So it's me, my buddy Zach on guitar and keyboard, and my buddy Kieran on tabla drums. And basically it's like I'm going between, Must Kalender and Allahu, but then I play Rocky Top, and then I play my original songs as well, and kind of just flip back and forth. And the audience is like, you see these like Desi aunties, who are like clapping along, and then you see like really Southern white guys in a cowboy hat. And it was like, it really just showed me that, like, this is my idea of America, is everybody living in harmony and appreciation. And that's what America means to me. So whoever is, in the government or in power or in the media, they're not reflective of my idea of America, for better or for worse. Like, if whatever they're doing, for me, America is this ideal that the founding fathers gave of hope, which is an analogy to my faith, but the Constitution, these are ideas that I love and that I believe in, and it all kind of is a straight line to, like, can a Muslim make country music?
Yeah. Johnson City, of all places. I'm assuming your parents came for an academic opportunity?
Yes, my mom had gotten the opportunity to do some training at ETSU, and that's kind of what brought my family to Johnson City, and so I pretty much have lived my whole life in Johnson City, Tennessee, outside of the time that I've been in Nashville. I moved to Nashville I think this is my 9th year now. And yeah, Johnson City is, like I said, it's kind of the middle of the country in a way. And our claim to fame was a song called Wagon Wheel. But outside that, you might have never heard of it.
But it's just a stone's throw from Bristol, which is where the Carter family recorded pretty much the foundational canon of country music. So that's hallowed ground up there.
Yeah, I like to say I'm basically from the birthplace of country music. And that's been something that has been interesting for me in country music, is because I think when you look like me and you're a first generation American, the question we get asked most is, where are you from? And when I say Johnson City, Tennessee, or the birthplace of country music, I see some question marks going off.
And then people usually follow up, but
where are you really from? And that was honestly the question that I was answering with this, with my musical endeavor that I'm doing right now, which is answering that question, where are you from and who are you? Because I think as a first generation, American, I'm not the immigrant. My parents immigrated, so I don't have that experience. but then I don't necessarily look like the people from Johnson City, Tennessee or Nashville, Tennessee. So there's this kind of third space that we exist in where we're not really one or the other, but really we're both. I'm not from Pakistan. I'm from East Tennessee. I'm from Tennessee through and through. You know, I played Little League baseball and I played varsity baseball. I played baseball my whole life. I played, like Pee Wee football when I was like 5 years old, and I played varsity at Science Hill High School. I'm about as Tennessee as it gets, and I think as country as it gets. You know, in my family's house, when I look out the window, I see cows. Like, how many people who say they're country can see the cows? And I'm not talking about horses, because horses are cool. You know, and cows are cool too. No offense to the cows listening, but you know, I'm really from the country, and that is something that my appearance does not reflect to most people. And so this is a bit of like, you know, this artistic statement of this is where I'm from.
Yeah. Growing up, though, how did you get this exposure to music? Was it playing in the house? Was it that family tradition of the qawwali?
Yeah, you know, my dad loved qawwali growing up, and I didn't connect with it as much when I was young, because you know all the videos
it's your
are
parents'
from
music,
yeah, it's
right?
my parents' music.
Yeah.
And you know, at the same time, we had like my mom loves Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. You know, it's kind of funny because she always loved the song "The Gambler," and you know, gambling is very taboo for Muslims, so it's just kind of funny. I was like, you know, maybe she doesn't even pay attention to the lyrics, but she loves Kenny Rogers, she loves Dolly, and so I had this really diverse music playing growing up. I also had Bollywood, which is where I really fell in love with that tabla drum, because if there's one instrument that kind of makes it seem like it's from back in, you know, the homeland of my parents, South Asia, it's that drum. And so I did have this kind of diverse music playing in the house. I fell in love with guitar really through, you know, hearing punk rock music, and I was like, oh, these are, you know, songs. Like I saw somebody play like a Blink-182 song, and I was like, wow, I could do that. Like he taught me that. Like I went to a guitar store and they taught me that in like when I was picking out the guitar. And you know, on one side it's the great salesman because I bought the guitar, but it also made me think that, hey, I could really do this.
It's Banner and Company, and my guest is Muslim country artist Mo Sabri. Here's a little of that mix of qawwali and Appalachian folk music. We'll be right back. When we launched Banner and Company more than a year ago, we wanted to help you get to know your Nashville neighbors. One of the best ways to know a neighborhood is to tap into the experience of a realtor or two who really know the city and the region. Richard Courtney and Lisa Peebles are a pair to draw to, as they say. Kind of like matchmakers, they have the experience and relationships to connect you with people and homes that best serve your personality and your lifestyle. And with more than $1 billion sold, you can bet you'll be in good company. To connect with Richard Courtney and Lisa Peebles, visit NashvilleLuxuryEstates.com. Culturally, hey, Mom and Dad, I want to take a stab at being a musician in Nashville. How did that go over?
Well, there was a lot that happened before that. It's funny. I mean, my parents are immigrants, and like most immigrants, the two career paths that you have are to be a doctor or a disappointment. and I was able to pursue music as a hobby in school. Mm-hmm. When I went to college, I went to ETSU, East Tennessee State. My parents were like, well, you can do whatever you want in your free time, but you got to be pre-med. So I was actually taking like pre-med classes, but I was making music. And at the time, YouTube was kind of first popping off, and I was able to use YouTube to basically kind of build an audience. And I started like touring, and because I kind of made fans all over the country and even internationally. So while I was in school, I was touring like on the weekends. So I would be playing shows at like colleges across the country, and then I would come back on Monday for like a organic chemistry test, and it was quite it's
How
quite
were the grades, though, Mo?
you know I was making mostly A's. That's the only way really that my parents would kind of let me continue, is that luckily they didn't like stifle my creativity, but they never really thought that it was like a viable career path. As much as they love music and we have music as such a big part of our history, they have they had the immigrant struggle of like, hey, we have to be the best of the best in order to have a chance at like being financially non-insecure in America. So the thought that I could be an artist was something that was super foreign to them. And it wasn't really until things started working, and even like their friends in Johnson City were like, "Oh, is Mo Sabri your son?" Because I had come out with a song called Johnson City at the time, and it was just a fun song that like had a lot of like funny, jokey lyrics about the town, but it made people feel like they were, I think, connected. And anyway, so that song kind of went viral in my hometown, and at the same time, I was making music that wasn't just limited to the geography, and I started making a bunch of like fans who then wanted to invite me to perform at their events, and I was able to make a little money to the point where my parents were like, "Oh wow, like I didn't know that you could make money playing music."
You must have a knack for marketing, though. Do you have sort of, you think, a talent for figuring out what might get people's attention and notice?
Yeah, I would say that is unfortunately like a really important part of being an artist, is that we kind of wear all these different hats, but I kind of have to pretend that the only thing I do is play guitar. But I learned how to edit music videos, and I learned how to like, you know, essentially be my own social media person, because we kind of needed to do that. And it kind of came from this like desire and love of music, is that, hey, I just want to do this and not have to do anything else. And even if that means that like, hey, I'm just scraping by, like that's cool with me. I'm like an artist through and through.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather do the thing that I really love, because that's kind of how you succeed anyway. I could fail at something else. I remember there's this Jim Carrey speech where he talks about his dad did the sure thing and still ended up having trouble. So he's like, I might as well do the thing that I want to do. And if I have trouble, then at least it's worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for
anyway,
sure.
so yeah, luckily by the time I finished college, this is kind of working.
And it was growing.
Yeah, it was growing. And I was getting a lot of support from different avenues and communities. Like on one hand, Tennesseans and East Tennesseans were listening to my music. And then I also was getting support from like the South Asian community, because we also have our own music scenes like Qawwali. And at the time I wasn't doing Qawwali, but there's like Punjabi music, like Bollywood dance music, there's a huge scene of that. And after, like, I was getting invited to like be the entertainment after like a college was having like one of those like Punjabi dance battle like school competitions, but they would have me come and perform sometimes. Or I'd get booked by like, I did a lot of university concerts where they would just, I had like a lot of young fans, my same age as well in high school and college, and they were like, we want Mo to perform, and that was cool. And so yeah, things were growing, and I think it was always important to me to make a statement of like who I am, and I'm constantly reminded of like what I feel like is, like talking about marketing, like at best it's false marketing about Muslims, but at worst it's like propaganda where it's like Muslims believe this, and I'm like, I don't believe that at all.
So let's talk about that. How much can you infuse into your performance to educate people or to correct these misconceptions? You don't want to hit anyone over the head and cease to be entertainment.
Yeah.
But you have an opportunity.
Exactly. And I think I also learned that too, is that you can't really be like too on the nose with things. But, as an artist, when I was first starting out, you kind of have to like try things and learn. But I actually did kind of make a lot of faith-inspired music a few years into my like career. And the interesting thing is that was when things kind of started going on a national level for me. Like I wrote a song about Jesus from the Muslim perspective, and it was kind of funny because a lot of people thought I converted to Christianity because I was talking about Jesus, but I was like, no, this is all literally saying about how much we revere Jesus as the Messiah in our faith. But people thought it was like a Christian rap song. But then when people were like, oh, he's Muslim, and that was kind of my point, was not, I didn't know how much it was going to go viral. It was like my first video on YouTube that got like 1 million views or streams. And
What's it called?
well, it's just called Jesus. When I first came out with it, it was like, I believe in Jesus. That was on the nose.
Yeah.
And then I was like, let me shorten it to Jesus.
Yeah, a little less problematic, probably.
Yeah. But it's technically a true statement. I believe in Jesus, and I learned, like to me as an artist, I kind of want to just share my truth, and I was kind of figuring that out as a time. And I didn't even know that there was going to be any like support from doing that. It was just like, hey, I'm in East Tennessee. I'm in the Bible Belt. Everybody thinks that like I worship some kind of strange deity when it's actually like I worship God, with a capital G, and the God of Abraham. And, we really revere Jesus, and he's a figure that is common to both of our faiths, Christianity and Islam. And I was like, I'm just going to write a song about it. And, I think it got me invited to like the National Prayer Breakfast, which as like a junior in college, my family and my like, actually that was also when like my like school started taking me seriously too, because they were just like, oh, he's like this wannabe artist or whatever. And then I was getting like all this national press and had breakfast with the president. And it's so funny, I was like, my music didn't change, but like overnight people started like paying attention more and caring more, and like, you're so good now. I'm like, I'm the same artist I was yesterday.
Right.
You just care now.
Right.
And people are going to feel the same way now that I'm on the banner. You know what I mean?
Well, let's hope so. I'm sure they will. Certainly, though, there have been difficult times. Have you been heckled?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, anytime I kind of do anything that reaches, like, outside of my just normal following, there's a lot of vocal people, who will say, just kind of racist stuff, or ignorant stuff. And for me, my wife was asking me about that. She was like, why, or how do you do you just not care about this stuff? And in a sense, it's like, I do care, and it does get to me, but the reason why I make music and my passion for songwriting and storytelling and speaking up for people who can't, that's really important to me. Like, I don't have a boss. I'm not afraid of losing a job. I can't, the worst that can really happen is that things don't grow, or people don't allow me on their platforms. But outside of that, I'm like, I'm pretty free to say what I want to say. And so I want to say those things that people can't. Right now people are, Muslims are getting, disappeared for writing op-eds, about human rights. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not on a visa. I'm not on a green card. My parents are citizens. I'm a born U.S. citizen. I'm from Tennessee. I'm from the country. I am the most American it gets. And I really think that the art that I'm making right now, it's like, I'm kind of the litmus test for America. Is the American promise what it is, or what, we've been told. So, sorry to go super serious all of a sudden, but
we are sitting, though, in a moment in this country and in this town when, institutions are taking away mentions of DEI on websites, and the conversation is definitely shifting, and some of this stuff where we thought we were advancing has either been screeching to a halt or
Yep.
going backward. Does that worry you? Is your moment sort of crushed?
Um, to be honest, I don't think I was ever included in that conversation in the first place. Um, I feel like being Muslim was a bridge too far for DEI anyway. It's funny, just this morning, I got the news that there's one program that like supports diverse artists in Nashville that I'm aware of. Um, and I had applied for it, and I just found out that like I didn't get it. But I also wasn't like surprised, because that's been my experience in Nashville. I've been here for, I didn't just move to town. I've been here for 9 years. Like I said, it just kind of already my experience that like being Muslim is a little radioactive.
It's Banner and Company. I'm Demetria Kaladinos. Let's listen to a little bit of Mo's music. Here's Married in a Barn. We'll be right back.
In the key to your heart. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get married in a barn. Let's go. Let's get married in a barn. I've been trying to wait, but honey, I'm not that strong. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get married in a barn.
Have you taken these meetings? Have you met with, someone that's maybe booking major shows or running a label, and what has the reaction been?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not like meeting with everybody in town, or I should say I haven't met with like everyone in town, but I've met with, enough people to kind of make me realize that like there is this like feeling of like, at best they don't really understand that I'm a commercially viable artist. I mean, I'm already doing it. Like they can just look and see, but there is also this thought of I think, I have been told like one time, like explicitly, they were like, we love your music, and we love everything you're doing, and if you weren't Muslim, we would totally be working with you. And mainly because we have other artists or other people we're working with, not just artists, but like other people that wouldn't want to work with us if they find out we're like working with a Muslim. And they didn't say that with any malice. It was just like they kind of knew the lay of their land, and they're like, this is, at the end of the day, like this is not like that's what they were predicting. And I didn't actually even mind hearing that, because I'm like, I kind of realized that like, look, I would love to be, like I said, the first Muslim, country artist Nashville has. And I think I could bring in like, if I had the support of, what other major artists have, like, I think we could bring in a whole new audience that would appreciate country music. Like most of these country music artists, they're not like touring the world. They have like America and a couple other maybe international countries. So country has a lot of room to grow.
Do you think that could change if you collaborated with someone so big and so important as an opening act or as a protege, or I don't know, I'm just talking out loud. I mean, could someone of great standing change your situation and perhaps change the attitude?
That's a really good question. I mean, I have actually already performed with a member of the Grand Ole Opry, a Grammy Award-winning country star, Catch Secor. I actually played wagon wheel with him, and so a lot of people in the industry are aware. Yeah, and they're aware of me. It's just that,
but nothing.
Yeah, I would say that. I wouldn't say it's nothing, but I would say that like there's a reason why there hasn't been a Muslim in just about any part of the Nashville country music industry. It's not that there isn't a Muslim, and there's not that there isn't a lot of Muslims in Nashville. As you know, it's like
Sure.
got a huge population. It's just that, like I said, it really is the litmus test.
I want to talk about, before we go here, Married in a Barn.
Sure.
It's a great title. You want to know more, you want to see more.
Yeah.
How did that idea come up?
Well,
Was it a song first, or was it an event first? An actual happening?
I think it was an idea first that, I was engaged at the time, and we were planning on our wedding, and, in East Tennessee and really anywhere in the South, it's like people get married in a barn. And that was kind of what I always imagined. Like, my sisters got married in the hotels, and they did like the traditional Desi wedding with like 500 people and decorations from, like a Bollywood movie pretty much. And we were just like, that's just not really what we want to do. I've always envisioned myself doing something like low key or very true to who I am. And so did my wife. And we were like, let's get married in a barn. And there's this beautiful barn that's just like 5 minutes away from where my family's house in Johnson City. Technically, it's in Jonesboro, right across the border. And so I wrote this song. I was just like, let's get married in a barn. And it's funny because I tend to, as an artist, to like gravitate to wanting to write like sad songs. And I was like, this is a rare happy song, a rare fun song, upbeat, up tempo, that like, people are playing at their receptions now, like as part of the dance portion of the wedding. But for me, it was just like, it's just based in reality. They say like country music is 3 chords and the truth. And this is just my reality. I'm like, I'm getting married in a barn. And they kind of all happened at the same time. And believe it or not, I'm actually wearing my wedding boots.
Great looking boots, I gotta say.
Thank you. I know we're on the radio right now, but if only they could see them.
Let's talk a little bit about wardrobe, because I've seen you wear traditional dress. Today you're dressed up, look marvelous, by the way.
Thank you so much.
But it's great looking stage wear, it's great looking street wear, but that's also an opportunity to telegraph who you are.
Exactly. I think so. Right now, for those who can't see, I'm wearing a Desi shalwar kameez underneath this
beautiful, like brocade vest.
Yeah, thank you. It's called a koti, and for me, it's kind of an extension of who I am. Like, I think at first glance, when people hear Muslim in country music, it sounds like a gimmick, or it sounds like somebody who's confused. But to me, this is actually makes so much sense, because I'm from Johnson City, but I'm proud of my heritage on both sides. I'm proud of being Tennessean, but I'm proud of my Pakistani heritage. Being Muslim and being a country artist go a lot better together than you might think.
For sure. What are you writing right now? And has your style changed at all? Are you going for radio? I mean, what are you just going to satisfy your own artistic sensibilities?
Sure. Luckily for me, I feel like there's a lot of overlap between what people want to hear and what I actually enjoy making. To me, writing a song is often like a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle. And when you put constraints on it, like, hey, this should be like around 3 minutes or something, or hey, this is like, you've got to tell a story in this amount of time or lyrical bars. To me, it's a lot of fun. And yes, I've been making country music with, I've been intentional about including the instruments like acoustic guitar, which is something I already played, electric guitar, banjo, mandolin, but also I've been including South Asian instruments into this fusion. Like Married in a Barn has a tabla that comes in. And now a lot of the times when I'm writing these country songs, I'm like, I want this instrument, tabla, to be in there. And what's kind of cool is that like slide guitar or dobro or pedal steel, it's so similar to like the sitar, which is this Indian Pakistani instrument. And I'm like, you know what? I see all these connections that I can authentically access. You know, both of the things that I'm doing is like a form of appreciation of the cultures that I think are what make me as a first generation American. And this album that, you know, I've put out a few singles and it's going to kind of culminate into this album project, but it has Kowali influences, it has country influences, in I think a very pop package, and you know people are kind of gravitating towards it. You know, it's got me to the banner, so it must be working.
Is the Opry a goal?
I would love to play the Grand Ole Opry. I think everybody who makes country music, it's like our dream, because it's like the heart of country music, and it's got a bigger meaning for me because I think country music is the heart of America. And for so long, you know, for how many years now, 24 years, there's been a question of like, are Muslims American? Can Muslims be American? Muslims aren't American. And that question has never really like been able to be something that I can get away from. And I feel like if I am able to play the Opry, I will finally answer that question.
Validation.
Yeah. Of more than just my artistry, but as Muslims being human and Muslims being American. And so it's got a bigger meaning for me, and I would love to. And, you know, I think they're aware of me at this point. And we'll see if that happens. And whether it does or not, you know, I still hope that people can view me and other Muslims as American and as human.
Banner and Company is a production of the new Nashville Banner. This episode was produced, edited, and mixed by Steve Harouche. The original music is by Verlin Thompson. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company. Our last question is in the fishbowl.
Oh.
So it's your choice. And just if you could read it out loud, give it some thought. And this is from a previous Banner and Company guest. We don't know who.
Question is, what's your credit card information? I'm just kidding.
Who's it from?
Oh, from Jim Bartu. When you have friends.
When you have friends come into town, do you really take them to Lower Broadway?
That's a good question. You know, now actually, I used to live right downtown, right next to Broadway, and I had so many friends that came into town, and it's funny because that was like the most social time of my life, because people would come to Nashville, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to the Titans game, or we're going to Broadway. You want to join?" And so oftentimes I wouldn't take them. They would be already there, and I'd come and say hello. And it was interesting because I don't drink alcohol. So I'm out here on Broadway where it's like, that's like the capital of drinking in America. And so, for one, the people watching is fun. But for two, it's like, sometimes it weirded people out, but sometimes people didn't mind and they accepted me for who I am. And that is what I think that's all that I want. You know, there's a human desire to be like, hey, I'm different, but we can still be friends.